most people in Dark Souls become undead against their will. Solaire of Astora chose it on purpose. This is the story of a knight who gave up everything for a dream that nobody else understood. While other undead cursed their fate and slowly lost their minds, this man smiled. He laughed. He made friends in a world where friendship seemed impossible, and he spent his entire journey searching for something he called his very own sun. But let us back up for a second. Lordran is a land of gods and monsters. The first flame burns at its heart, keeping the world alive. Lord Gwyn once ruled this place as the Lord of Sunlight, commanding thunder and lightning from his throne in Anor Londo. His firstborn son was the god of war, a powerful warrior who led armies into battle. But something happened. The firstborn did something so terrible that Gwyn stripped him of his godhood and erased his name from history. Nobody remembers what he was called anymore. The statues of him stand headless. The records of his deeds have been destroyed. He became a forgotten legend. This is the world Solaire decided to enter, and he did it willingly. Solaire came from a place called Astora. Knights from Astora are known for their faith. They pray. They perform miracles. They believe in the power of light, even when darkness surrounds them. But Solaire took this devotion further than most. He heard stories about Lordran and the First Flame. He learned about Gwyn and the forgotten god of war. And somewhere along the way, he developed an obsession with finding a sun of his own. What does that even mean? Finding your own sun. The truth is, nobody knows for certain. Maybe Solaire wanted to achieve enlightenment. Maybe he wanted to become something greater than human. Maybe he just wanted purpose in a world that seemed to have none. Whatever the reason, this quest defined everything about him. So he took the dark sign. The dark sign is a curse. It marks someone as undead and sentences them to an endless cycle of suffering. When an undead loses too much of their humanity, they go hollow. Their mind breaks. They become violent, empty shells of who they used to be. Most people fear the dark sign more than anything else in the world. Solaire saw it as a ticket to Lordran. Think about that for a moment. This knight deliberately accepted a curse that destroys minds and steals hope. He gave up his normal life in Astora because he believed his destiny waited somewhere else. The legend of Lordran called to him so strongly that he was willing to risk everything just to get there. When Solaire arrived in Lordran, he carried himself differently than the other undead, wandering around. He wore a set of iron armor that he had modified himself. Chainmail covered his body, topped with a white coat. And right there on his chest, painted by his own hand, sat a bright orange sun. This symbol meant everything to him. He painted it on his shield too. He wore the sun like a badge of honor, a declaration of what he believed in. His armor had no magical properties. His shield offered no special blessings. His sword, called the Sunlight Straight Sword, was just a regular longsword. Legend said it contained the very power of the sun, but in reality, it was simply a well-made weapon. Nothing about his equipment was enchanted or blessed by the gods. This detail matters because it reveals who Solaire truly was. He did not rely on divine gifts or magical shortcuts. He relied on himself. His skill with a blade came from training. His strength came from discipline. His faith came from within, and he needed no miracle from the heavens to prove his devotion. The sun's symbols he painted were personal declarations, not holy relics. Everything about him was earned through effort and belief. His fighting style reflected this practical approach. Solaire wielded the sunlight shield in his left hand, a medium-sized shield designed for both blocking and striking. In his right hand sat his long sword, balanced and reliable. He wore an iron helm topped with a red plume that made him stand out in any crowd. The whole look came together as something almost noble. Here was a knight who looked like he belonged in a storybook, walking through a world that had forgotten what stories were. But Solaire was not just a warrior. He also cast miracles. Through his sunlight talisman, he channeled lightning into spears of pure energy. This ability came from the Warriors of Sunlight, an ancient covenant dedicated to the forgotten god of war. Even though Gwyn had erased his firstborn from history, the covenant survived. Warriors who joined this group could throw lightning at their enemies, mimicking the power that once belonged to the gods themselves. Solaire mastered the lightning spear miracle. He could hurl bolts of sunlight across battlefields, striking down enemies from a distance. This power tied directly to his faith. The stronger someone believed, the more effective their miracles became. And Solaire believed harder than almost anyone. His title was Knight of Sunlight. Whether he earned this through the Covenant or simply claimed it for himself remains unclear. But he lived by everything that title represented. The Warriors of Sunlight were dedicated to helping others. They worked together. They celebrated cooperation over competition. Their whole purpose was spreading light and warmth in a world that desperately needed both. Solaire embodied these ideals perfectly. His cheerful attitude made him unusual among the undead. Where others wallowed in despair, he stayed optimistic. Where others gave in to the hollowing curse, he held on to his humanity. He never complained about his fate. He never regretted his choice to come to Lordran. Instead, he saw his situation as an opportunity. This is what separated him from everyone else. Other undead fought against their curse. Solaire embraced the journey it allowed him to take. His faith went beyond worshipping Gwyn or the forgotten firstborn. Solaire believed in the idea of light itself, warmth, friendship, purpose. These things mattered to him just as much as any god. He raised his arms to the sky and praised the sun because the sun represented hope. It represented something bright and beautiful in a dark and ugly world. Fellow knights from Astora were known for their devotion. Figures like Knight Astora and the entourage of Rhea all shared strong faith and miracle-casting abilities. But even among these devout warriors, Solaire stood apart. His conviction seemed to burn brighter than theirs. His commitment ran deeper. He was not just following a religion, he was living one. The undead curse breaks people down over time. Without humanity to fuel their will, they slowly lose themselves. Their memories fade. Their purpose disappears. Eventually, they become hollow, attacking anything that moves without reason or recognition. This process claimed countless victims throughout Lordran. Solaire refused to let it claim him. He held on to his sense of self through sheer force of belief. While other undead crumbled under the weight of their cursed existence, he kept smiling. He kept searching. He kept believing that somewhere out there, his son was waiting for him. This made him something rare in Lordran, a beacon of light, not because of magic or divine favor, but because of who he chose to be. He would become a friend to the chosen undead. He would fight alongside them in their darkest moments. He would offer help when everyone else offered only warnings. And through it all, he would never stop seeking that mysterious son he came to find. But Lordran is not a kind place. Hope does not guarantee happy endings here. The journey that Solaire started with such optimism would take him through some of the most dangerous places in existence. It would test his faith in ways he never expected, and ultimately, it would force him to confront a truth that might break even the brightest spirit. The sun he was looking for might not exist at all. In a world where everything wants you gone, Solaire offers you his hand. the chosen undead first encounters this unusual night on a balcony drenched in sunlight. The location sits in the Undead Burg, just beneath a bridge guarded by a massive drake. Danger lurks everywhere in this area. Hollows patrol the streets below. The dragon above breathes fire on anything that moves across its territory. Yet here stands Solaire, completely at ease, staring directly up at the brilliant sun in the sky. He does not even notice you at first. His attention belongs entirely to that burning light above. While other characters in Lordran hide in shadows or attack on sight, this knight simply gazes at the heavens like a man watching his favorite view. The contrast is striking. Everything around him screams danger, but he radiates calm. When you approach, something remarkable happens. He greets you with genuine warmth. This almost never occurs in Lordran. Most beings here either try to harm you or speak in riddles about your inevitable failure. Solaire does neither. He notices immediately that you still have your mind intact, that you have not gone hollow like so many others, and he seems genuinely happy about it. He introduces himself as Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Right away, his faith comes through in how he speaks. He talks about the sun with reverence that borders on worship. He describes it as a wondrous body, comparing it to a magnificent father figure. The way he speaks reveals something almost childlike in his admiration. He looks up at that burning sphere and wishes he could shine just as brightly. His dream of becoming grossly incandescent sounds strange at first. What does that even mean? But watching him gaze at the sky, you start to understand. He wants to embody that same warmth and light. He wants to become something that illuminates the darkness around him. In a world filled with decay and despair, Solaire dreams of becoming a source of hope. This moment establishes everything you need to know about who he is. Even in the middle of a war zone, he finds beauty. Even surrounded by creatures that want him destroyed, he focuses on what inspires him. His personality shines through in every word. Earnest, optimistic, perhaps a little quirky, but completely sincere in his beliefs. Then he does something that changes everything about your journey. Solaire offers you a gift. He hands over a white-signed soapstone, a simple stone that holds incredible power. With this item, you can leave your mark in other worlds. Other travelers can see your sign and call you into their reality to help them. You can also see their signs and summon them into yours. The stone opens up an entire system of cooperation between strangers who would otherwise never meet. He calls this jolly cooperation. The phrase captures exactly what he believes in: working together, helping each other, building bonds across the barriers that separate different worlds. Solaire hands you this tool freely because he wants you to experience what he has discovered: the joy of fighting alongside others, the satisfaction of victory shared. His offer goes even further. He tells you that your fates appear to be intertwined. He believes that you two will cross paths again and again throughout your journeys. And when that happens, you can call upon him for assistance. He will answer. He will fight beside you. He will put his own existence on the line to help you succeed. This is not an empty promise. Throughout Lordran, his summon sign appears near the most dangerous encounters, a glowing mark on the ground that pulses with golden light. Other summon signs glow white, but his burns gold. This color comes from his membership in the Warriors of Sunlight. It marks him as someone dedicated to the covenant of cooperation and sun worship. When you activate his sign, he materializes in your world as a golden phantom ready for battle. Watching him fight reveals just how capable he truly is. Solaire wields his sword with practiced skill, reading enemy movements and striking at the right moments. He blocks incoming attacks with his shield and creates openings for you to exploit. When distance separates him from his targets, he hurls lightning spears that crackle with solar energy. His combat style balances offense and defense perfectly, adapting to whatever threat you face together. He does not rely on tricks or gimmicks. His effectiveness comes from training and dedication. The way he moves shows years of practice. The timing of his miracles demonstrates deep understanding of combat flow. He is simply a skilled warrior who has honed his abilities through effort rather than shortcuts. When you succeed together, something special happens. Everyone who participated receives a sunlight medal. These tokens represent loyalty to the sun and proof of successful cooperation. They carry meaning beyond mere trophies. Each medal shows that warriors worked together and overcame a challenge that might have destroyed them individually. Solaire rewards these victories because they embody everything his covenant stands for. The bond that forms through these shared battles feels different from anything else in Lordran. Other characters might help you for their own reasons. Merchants want your souls. Sorcerers want knowledge. Everyone has an angle. But Solaire helps because helping is what he believes in. His motivation is pure in a way that nothing else in this world seems to be. His presence on that sunny balcony serves as a ray of hope for anyone lost in the darkness of this journey. New travelers stumbling through the Undead Burg have already faced countless setbacks by the time they reach him. They have fallen to traps. They have been overwhelmed by enemies. They have learned through painful experience that Lordran does not forgive mistakes. Then they find this friendly knight gazing at the sun, offering gifts and friendship without asking anything in return. The location itself feels intentional. Sunlight pours down onto that balcony while shadows fill the streets below. Solaire stands in the light, inviting you to join him. The visual metaphor is obvious but powerful. He represents brightness in a dark place. He represents warmth in a cold world. He represents the possibility that you do not have to face every challenge alone. After your conversation, he mentions that he will stay a while longer to gaze at the sun. He is not rushing anywhere. He has time to appreciate the beauty above before continuing his own quest. This patience defines him. While others race toward their goals or flee from their fears, Solaire takes moments to simply exist in the light. But he expects to see you again. He knows your paths will cross at the dangerous places where his help matters most. And sure enough, throughout your journey, that golden summon sign appears when you need it, before the bell gargoyles atop the church, in the depths where monstrous creatures lurk, at Anor Londo where ancient knights guard forgotten halls. Wherever the greatest threats await, Solaire makes himself available. Each summons strengthens the connection between you. Each victory adds another sunlight medal to your collection. Each battle fought side by side reinforces the idea that cooperation is not just useful, but essential. Solaire is not just helping you survive. He is teaching you a philosophy. He is showing you that the sun shines brightest when its light is shared. This friendship forms the heart of his story in Lordran. He gives freely. He fights bravely. He believes completely in the power of working together. And through his actions, he invites you to believe the same. The jolly cooperation he speaks of is not just a gameplay mechanic. It is a statement about how he thinks people should treat each other, even when everything around them is falling apart. The chosen undead gains more than a fighting companion on that sunlit balcony. They gain a friend, and in a place like Lordran, that might be the most valuable thing of all. The warriors of sunlight worship a god that nobody remembers. This ancient covenant predates almost everything else in Lordran. It was founded to honor Lord Gwyn's firstborn son, the god of war who once led armies into battle and commanded the power of lightning itself. But something happened to this god. He committed a transgression so terrible that Gwyn stripped him of his divine status and erased his name from history. Every record of who he was got destroyed. Every statue depicting him lost its head. He became a blank space in the annals of the gods, yet his covenant survived. The warriors of sunlight carried on without their patron. They kept the traditions alive. They continued crossing into other worlds to help fellow warriors defeat powerful enemies. They spread the light of victory wherever they went, and they did all of this while praying to a broken statue of a forgotten god. Solaire belongs to this order. He lives by its principles every single day. When he speaks of jolly cooperation, he is not just being friendly, he is practicing his religion. The Covenant teaches that warriors should assist each other freely and celebrate their shared triumphs. Every successful battle fought alongside another person honors the memory of the lost firstborn. The altar where this covenant gathers sits in an interesting location. It rests on the same balcony where the chosen undead first meets Solaire, just behind the bridge where the Hellkite Drake guards its territory. A broken statue stands at this altar, its head missing, just like all the other depictions of the firstborn throughout Lordran. When warriors kneel here and swear themselves to the sun, they pledge loyalty to an ideal rather than a living god. This detail matters. Other covenants in Lordran have clear leaders. The Dark Wraiths serve Kath. The Princess Guard follows Guinevere. The Forest Hunters answer to Alvina. But the warriors of sunlight have nobody telling them what to do. Their god was cast out. Their patron abandoned them, yet they keep believing anyway. Solaire embodies this perfectly. He does not need a deity giving him orders to maintain his faith. He draws strength from the concept itself. The sun, the light, the warmth of brotherhood. These ideas sustain him more than any divine commandment ever could. His approach to worship is deeply personal because it has to be. There is no other option when your god has been erased from existence. Joining the covenant requires proof of dedication. A warrior must accumulate significant faith before they can kneel at the altar and take the oath. The requirements can be reduced through cooperative victories, which makes perfect sense. The covenant rewards helping others by making it easier to join the ranks of those who help others. Every boss defeated alongside a summoned ally demonstrates the exact values the warriors of sunlight represent. When someone finally pledges themselves to the sun, they receive two important rewards. The first is the lightning spear miracle, a bolt of crackling energy that can be hurled at enemies from a distance. This power connects directly to the lost firstborn, who once wielded lightning as the god of war. The miracles of the covenant carry his legacy even though his name is gone. Every time a warrior of sunlight throws a lightning spear, they channel the forgotten power of a forgotten god. The second reward is the praise the sun gesture. This pose has become legendary among those who have traveled through Lordran. The warrior stretches both arms upward toward the sky as if trying to absorb sunlight directly into their body. The stance looks almost ecstatic, like someone overwhelmed by joy. Solaire performs this gesture constantly. It represents celebration, salvation, and hope in a world that offers very little of any of those things. The gesture stands as the complete opposite of going hollow. Where hollowing strips away identity and purpose, praising the sun affirms both. It declares that the person performing it still believes in something. They still feel joy. They still have reasons to celebrate. In a land where despair claims most travelers, eventually, this simple pose carries tremendous meaning. Members of the Covenant stand out visually when they appear in other worlds. Regular summoned phantoms glow with pale white light. Warriors of sunlight glow gold. Their summon signs on the ground burn with that same golden color. Everything about their appearance radiates the warmth and brightness they worship. When you see that golden glow materialize in your world, you know immediately that a sunbro has answered your call. The rewards for cooperation go beyond personal satisfaction. Whenever a warrior of sunlight helps another player defeat a boss, everyone involved receives a sunlight medal. These tokens serve as proof of successful partnership. They represent missions accomplished in the name of sunlight. Warriors can bring these medals back to the altar and offer them to deepen their commitment to the Covenant. Higher ranks within the warriors of sunlight unlock progressively stronger miracles. After demonstrating enough dedication through cooperative victories, members gain access to Great Lightning Spear. This enhanced version of the basic miracle hits harder and travels faster. Eventually, the most devoted warriors can obtain Sunlight Spear itself, the ultimate expression of the Firstborn's lightning power. These miracles are described as inherited from Lord Gwyn's own lineage, suggesting a direct connection to the gods themselves. The relationship between sunlight and lightning runs throughout Dark Souls lore. Gwyn was known as the Lord of Sunlight, and he wielded thunder as his primary weapon. The power of the sun manifests as bolts of crackling energy rather than just warmth and light. When Solaire throws his lightning spear in battle, he is channeling the same force that Gwyn once used to defeat the ancient dragons. The Sun Warrior and the Lord of Sunlight share the same source of strength. Solaire crafted his own sunlight talisman to cast these miracles. The talisman bears a holy illustration that he drew himself, just like the sun symbols on his armor and shield. Everything about his equipment reflects personal devotion rather than divine blessing. He created his own sacred objects because his faith comes from within. The talisman allows him to maintain steadfast focus while casting, mimicking the unshakable dedication that defines his entire character. What makes this covenant special is its absence of direct leadership. The broken statue at the altar never speaks. No god appears to reward faithful service. The warriors of sunlight exist entirely through the efforts of their members. They sustain their traditions through belief and camaraderie alone. Every generation of sun warriors teaches the next, passing down the principles and practices without any divine oversight. Solaire returns to the altar of sunlight later in his journey. After traveling through much of Lordran, he comes back to this place where everything began. If the chosen undead meets him there, he offers them the chance to formally join the Covenant. This moment carries weight because of everything that has happened between them. The warrior who gave you a soapstone and taught you about cooperation now invites you to share his faith completely. The Covenant attracts a certain type of person, someone who finds meaning in helping others, someone who believes that working together makes everyone stronger, someone who refuses to let the darkness of Lordran extinguish their inner light. These warriors do not fight for glory or personal gain. They fight because the act of fighting alongside others is its own reward. Players who join the Covenant often refer to themselves as Sunbros. This nickname captures the spirit of what the warriors of sunlight represent: brotherhood, friendship, mutual support in a hostile world. The term has spread far beyond the game itself, becoming a way for fans to recognize each other and celebrate shared experiences. The Praise the Sun gesture followed a similar path. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki included a hidden version of this pose, even in Demon's Souls, the game that came before Dark Souls. His affinity for the concept clearly runs deep. When the gesture became available to all warriors of sunlight, it transformed into something iconic. Players performing it together after a hard-won victory feel like they are participating in something meaningful. This is what Solaire fights for. Not just his personal quest to find his own sun, but the larger mission of spreading light through cooperation. Every time he answers a summon, he advances the cause of his covenant. Every lightning spear he throws honors the memory of a forgotten god. Every victory he shares adds to the legacy of the warriors of sunlight. The sun they praise might just be a ball of fire in the sky, but what it represents is something much greater. Hope, purpose, connection. The belief that even in the darkest places, light can still be found if people work together to create it. Solaire does not just talk about helping others, he proves it with his blade. Throughout the journey across Lordran, his golden summon sign appears at the most dangerous moments. Every major challenge the chosen undead faces, Solaire stands ready to join the fight. This is not a one-time offer of assistance. This is a consistent presence that follows you through some of the hardest trials in the land of the gods. The first opportunity to fight alongside him comes at the Undead Parish Church. Twin gargoyles wait on the rooftop, guarding the bell of awakening that must be rung to advance the journey. These creatures are fast and vicious. One alone would pose a serious threat. But partway through the battle, a second gargoyle joins the fight, and suddenly the odds shift dramatically against anyone fighting alone. Solaire's summon sign glows near the fog gate leading to this encounter. Activating it brings him into the world as a golden phantom ready for battle. He charges into the fight with his sword raised and his faith burning bright. While you focus on one gargoyle, he engages the other. His lightning spears crackle across the rooftop. His shield blocks incoming attacks. His presence transforms an overwhelming encounter into a manageable challenge. Ringing the bell of awakening marks a significant milestone in the journey through Lordran. It signals progress toward the ultimate goal of linking the first flame. For Solaire, this moment carries personal meaning as well. As an undead seeking enlightenment, advancing through these trials brings him closer to whatever destiny awaits. He does not help you ring that bell purely out of kindness. He advances his own quest at the same time. The partnership continues deeper into Lordran. When the path leads down into the festering depths beneath the city, another massive threat awaits. The gaping dragon is a monstrous creature, an aberration born from endless hunger. Its body stretches across the arena, all teeth and claws and twisted flesh. Fighting this thing alone requires patience, skill, and more than a little luck. Once again, Solaire answers the call. His summon sign appears for those who seek assistance. Bringing him into this battle provides much-needed support against a creature that can end your existence in seconds. He draws the dragon's attention while you attack from safer angles. He survives hits that would destroy lesser warriors. Together, you cut down the beast and continue forward. By this point, a pattern has emerged. Whenever the journey grows difficult, Solaire is there. The bond between you strengthens with each shared victory. Every sunlight medal earned represents another moment of successful cooperation. Every boss defeated together adds to a growing history of partnership. What started as a friendly meeting on a sunlit balcony has become something deeper. The road eventually leads to Anor Londo, the legendary city of the gods. This place once served as the seat of Lord Gwyn's power. Massive architecture stretches toward the sky. Silver knights patrol the halls. Everything about this location speaks to the glory that once defined the age of gods. Yet that glory has faded. The city feels abandoned, haunted by memories of better times. Solaire reaches Anor Londo through his own path. the chosen undead finds him sitting at a bonfire in the castle, taking a moment to rest. This reunion feels different from previous encounters. He remains friendly and upbeat on the surface, but something has shifted in his demeanor. A weariness has crept into his voice that was not there before. When you speak with him here, he opens up about his quest. He confides that despite traveling all this way, he still has not found what he is looking for. He feels like he is always gazing up at the sun, yet his own sun remains out of reach. The words carry a weight of self-doubt that contrasts sharply with his earlier optimism. Even in the glorious city of sunlight, he has not achieved his goal. This moment adds depth to his character. Solaire is not simply a cheerful helper who exists to make your journey easier. He has his own struggles. He faces his own doubts. The relentless search for meaning wears on him, just as the curse wears on every undead in Lordran. Seeing this vulnerability makes him feel more real, more human, despite the fantastical circumstances. Yet his good nature persists through the fatigue. If you keep talking to him, he cracks a joke about how much you seem to enjoy his company. He teases that you might have romantic feelings for him, then laughs at his own comment. The moment is light-hearted and warm, a reminder that even in dark times, connection between people can bring moments of joy. Anor Londo contains one of the most feared challenges in all of Lordran. Deep within the Grand Cathedral, two legendary warriors guard the path forward. Ornstein the Dragon Slayer and Smaug the Executioner stand ready to destroy anyone who enters their domain. Ornstein moves with blinding speed, his spear crackling with lightning. Smaug swings a massive hammer that can flatten opponents in a single blow. Fighting them together requires everything a warrior has to give. Solaire can be summoned for this legendary duel as well. Bringing him into the cathedral creates a moment of thematic significance. This is the throne room of Lord Gwyn, the very deity that Solaire worships. The knights standing against you once served under Gwyn's command. For a devout warrior of sunlight to fight in this place feels almost like destiny fulfilling itself. He engages these mighty opponents without hesitation. His sword clashes against their weapons. His miracles flash across the cathedral. He draws aggression away from you when the pressure becomes too intense. The battle is long and brutal, but with Solaire fighting alongside you, victory becomes possible. When Ornstein and Smaug finally fall, the triumph feels earned through genuine teamwork. Speaking to Solaire after this accomplishment reveals his admiration. He congratulates you on the victory and acknowledges the difficulty of what you achieved together. But this encounter also marks a turning point in his journey. With the Lord Vessel obtained and the path to the endgame opened, Solaire's focus shifts back to his personal quest. The cooperation that brought you both this far must now give way to individual pursuits. After the events in Anor Londo, Solaire returns to the Sunlight Altar in the Undead Parish. He goes back to where everything began, standing before the broken statue of the Forgotten God. If you seek him out there, he offers something special. He invites you to formally join the Warriors of Sunlight and become his brother in faith. This is a meaningful moment for both characters. Throughout your adventures, you have fought beside each other as allies. You have shared victories against impossible odds. You have built a friendship through action rather than just words. Now Solaire offers to make that bond official. Joining his covenant transforms the informal partnership into something sacred. He welcomes new members with genuine enthusiasm. His dialogue reflects how much your companionship has meant to him. He speaks of your friendship being a beacon in dark times, a source of light when everything else seems hopeless. The lone pilgrim who arrived in Lordran seeking his own son has found something precious along the way. He has found someone who believes in the same ideals and fights for the same cause. The emotional connection between Solaire and the chosen undead runs deeper than most relationships in this world. He genuinely cares about your well-being. If you show signs of falling to the curse, he expresses concern and encourages you to stay strong. He does not want to lose the friend he has made. This protective instinct goes both ways. Players often go out of their way to ensure Solaire survives his journey, feeling responsible for the cheerful knight who has helped them so many times. By the late stages of the quest, the two of you have become the closest of allies. You have saved each other from certain destruction. You have celebrated victories that seemed impossible. You have shared quiet moments at bonfires between the chaos of battle. In a world designed to break spirits and crush hope, this friendship stands as proof that connection is still possible. Solaire's path through Lordran mirrors your own in many ways. He faces the same enemies. He overcomes the same obstacles. He searches for meaning in the same cursed land. But while your goal is clear, his remains frustratingly elusive. The sun he seeks stays out of reach, no matter how far he travels or how many battles he wins. The road ahead will test that faith more severely than anything that has come before. The deeper regions of Lordran hold dangers that make everything else look simple by comparison. And somewhere in those dark places, something waits that will force Solaire to confront the limits of his devotion. But for now, in this moment, the partnership holds strong. Two warriors bound by shared struggle and mutual respect. Two friends who found each other in a world that seemed determined to keep everyone alone. The cheerful knight who once praised the sun with such joy is breaking apart. After the triumphs in Anor Londo, the journey through Lordran takes a darker turn. The chosen undead must descend into regions that feel designed to crush the spirit. Blighttown waits below the surface, a festering swamp filled with poison and despair. The tomb of the giants lies shrouded in absolute blackness, where even torchlight barely penetrates the gloom. And deeper still, the fiery depths of lost Izalith burn with hellish flames that mock any memory of true sunlight. These places represent the opposite of everything Solaire believes in. There is no sun here. There is no warmth that comforts. There is only suffering and darkness in forms that would make most travelers give up entirely. The chosen undead pushes through these nightmarish landscapes alone, without the golden phantom fighting alongside them. But Solaire walks these same paths on his own journey. The lore makes this clear. He travels through Anor Londo, Blighttown, the Tomb of the Giants, and Lost Izalith, searching for his mysterious son. He braves the same poison swamps and lightless caverns that test everyone who enters. He faces the same demons and horrors that guard these forsaken places. All of this happens parallel to your own adventure, out of sight but very much real. The toll this takes on him can only be guessed at. Every step through Blighttown brings exposure to toxins that weaken the body and cloud the mind. Every moment in the Tomb of the Giants means fighting without being able to see what lurks nearby. Every descent into Lost Izalith brings him further from the sky he worships. For a warrior whose entire identity centers on the sun, these environments must feel like torture, designed specifically for him. When Solaire finally reappears, something fundamental has changed. The demon ruins sit at the edge of Lost Izalith, a transitional zone between the upper world and the chaos below. Lava flows through rocky passages. Demons roam freely. The ceiling of stone blocks out any view of the sky above. This is where the chosen undead encounters Solaire again, and the difference in his demeanor is impossible to miss. The optimism that defined him has eroded. The cheerfulness that made him such a welcome presence has faded. When you speak to him near the shortcut door past the centipede demon boss fight, his words carry a weight they never had before. He sounds tired in a way that goes beyond physical exhaustion. He sounds defeated in spirit. He laments that he cannot seem to find his son. After all this searching, after all these battles, after traveling to the darkest corners of Lordran, he has nothing to show for his quest. The goal that drove him to accept the dark sign curse remains as distant as ever. Worse, he begins to wonder if the whole thing was a delusion from the start. Maybe there is no son waiting for him. Maybe his dream was always impossible. This is the same knight who once spoke of becoming grossly incandescent. The same warrior who handed you a soapstone and spoke of jolly cooperation with genuine excitement. The same friend who fought beside you against gargoyles and dragons and legendary knights. Now he sits in the darkness and questions whether any of it meant anything. The environment around him reflects his emotional state perfectly. Lost Izalith and the demon ruins are oppressive landscapes that seem specifically designed to break hope. Lava provides the only light, but it is a cruel mockery of sunlight. The heat burns rather than warms. The glow illuminates horrors rather than beauty. For someone who has spent their entire journey seeking the sun, being trapped in a place where hellfire is the only illumination must feel like a personal nightmare. Solaire can be summoned one final time in this region. His golden sign appears before the centipede demon, a grotesque creature born from the chaos of this place. If you call upon him for this battle, he fights alongside you as he always has. His sword strikes true. His lightning spears crackle through the air. His shield blocks incoming attacks. On the surface, he performs exactly as expected. But after the battle ends, the truth becomes clear. At the nearby bonfire, you find Solaire sitting with his head down. The posture alone tells a story. This is not the confident knight gazing at the sky with arms raised in praise. This is someone who has lost the strength to even look up anymore. He thanks you for the victory, but his words sound hollow. The triumph over the centipede demon has done nothing to illuminate his path forward. His dialogue in this area suggests that he has reached the end of his rope. Darkness is closing in on his heart. The faith that sustained him through so many challenges finally faces something it cannot overcome. He has searched everywhere and found nothing. He has fought countless battles and gained no clarity. The sun he seeks remains invisible, and he begins to accept that it might never appear. This transformation is heartbreaking to witness. Solaire was the one character in Lordran who seemed immune to despair. While everyone else succumbed to cynicism or madness, he kept believing. While the world tried to crush every spark of hope, he kept his inner light burning. Now that light flickers on the edge of going out entirely, the location of this breakdown matters. In the demon ruins, the sky is completely hidden by rock and earth. The only illumination comes from pools of lava and the flames of demonic creatures. There is no sun to praise here. There is no warmth to remind him why he fights. His faith has brought him to the darkest place in Lordran, and that darkness is seeping into his soul. Strange creatures scuttle through the tunnels of Lost Izalith that hint at what comes next. Sunlight maggots crawl along the walls and floors. Parasitic bugs that glow with a piercing bright light. One of these creatures emits a luminosity that stands out even among its kind. The glow is enticing, almost hypnotic. It looks like a tiny sun moving through the shadows. This is where tragedy begins to take shape. Solaire's mental state has left him vulnerable in ways he does not recognize. His obsession with finding any source of light has blinded him to danger. His despair has weakened his judgment. The warnings are everywhere if you know how to read them. His talk of giving up, his fixation on discovering something, anything that might be his son. The the glowing bug that seems designed to catch the attention of someone exactly like him. The game foreshadows what is about to happen without stating it directly. Something in Lost Izalith is moving towards Solaire, something that exploits the very desires that define him. His unwavering quest for his own son has led him to a place where a false son waits to consume him. At this point in the story, the narrative branches in two directions. One path leads to tragedy that feels almost inevitable given everything that has happened. The other path requires intervention that the player might not even realize is possible. The fate of a beloved companion hangs in the balance, determined by actions that happen away from the main quest line. Solaire has reached his lowest point. The knight who brought light to others now sits alone in the dark, wondering if his entire life has been a mistake. The faith that seemed unbreakable has finally cracked under the weight of failure. And somewhere in the depths of Lost Izalith, something terrible waits to take advantage of his weakness. The son he has searched for his entire journey might finally appear, but it will not be what he hoped for, and by the time he realizes the truth, it may already be too late to save him. Deep beneath Lost Izalith, Solaire finally finds what he has been searching for his entire journey, and it destroys him completely. The creature is called a sunlight maggot. It is a chaotic insect born from the twisted experiments that created the chaos flame long ago. When this parasite attaches to a host, it radiates a brilliant, blinding light from their head. In the pitch darkness of the demon ruins, this glow looks exactly like what Solaire has spent his entire quest trying to find. A sun of his very own, small enough to wear like a crown. To understand what happens next, you have to remember where Solaire's mind is at this point. He has traveled through poison swamps and lightless tombs. He has searched every corner of Lordran without finding what he seeks. His faith has cracked under the weight of constant failure. When he encounters this glowing creature in the darkness, his judgment is not what it once was. The maggot's light must have seemed like destiny finally answering his prayers. After all those battles, after all that searching, after questioning whether his dream was even real, here was proof that something like a personal sun could exist. The glow was bright and warm, and everything he had been looking for. In his desperate state, Solaire allowed the parasitic creature to attach itself to him. That decision ended the night everyone had come to love. The moment the sunlight maggot latches onto Solaire's head, it overwhelms his mind completely. The creature burrows in like a glowing crown, and its intense light drives him into total insanity. Whatever remained of his rational thought gets consumed by the parasite's influence. The cheerful warrior who once spoke of jolly cooperation transforms into something unrecognizable. When the chosen undead encounters him again, the change is horrifying. Solaire stands in the darkness of Lost Izalith, with the maggot's piercing light beaming from where his visor should be. The warm golden glow that once marked him as a warrior of sunlight is gone. In its place, a ghastly red and orange radiance pulses from his head. He babbles incoherently, his words making no sense to anyone listening. He believes he has succeeded. In his fractured mind, he thinks he has finally achieved what he set out to accomplish. He has found his son. More than that, he has become the sun itself, the dream that drove him to accept the dark sign curse, to journey to Lordran, to fight alongside the chosen undead through countless battles, has been fulfilled in the most twisted way possible. The tragedy deepens when you realize he cannot recognize you anymore. This is the same knight who teased you about having feelings for him. The same friend who handed you a soapstone and welcomed you into his covenant. The same ally who stood beside you against Ornstein and Smaug in the throne room of the gods. Now he sees only an enemy to be destroyed. Solaire attacks on sight, delirious and hostile toward everyone. His combat skills remain intact, even as his sanity crumbles. He swings the sunlight straight-sword with the same precision he always had. He hurls lightning spears that crackle with dangerous energy. He blocks and parries and strikes with all the ability he developed over years of training. But there is no recognition in his movements anymore. No friendship, no mercy. The chosen undead has no choice but to defend themselves against their former companion. This confrontation carries an emotional weight that few encounters in the game can match. You are not fighting some random demon or hollow enemy. You are fighting someone you have known since nearly the beginning of your journey. Someone who helped you when you needed it most. Someone whose cheerful presence made the darkness of Lordran feel bearable. The setting makes everything worse. Lost Izalith is a crumbling ruin filled with demons and ash. Lava flows through the broken landscape. The only light comes from fires that burn without warmth. This is the stage for the downfall of the warriors of Sunlight's noblest knight. A hero who traveled so far and fought so hard, brought low in a place that represents everything opposite to what he believed in. When the battle ends, Solaire collapses. His dream remains unfulfilled, despite what the parasite convinced him to believe. His story concludes in sorrow rather than triumph. The equipment he carried throughout his journey can be collected from where he fell. His sword, his shield, his helm, his armor. Each piece now serves as a sad memento of a fallen friend rather than the gear of a living ally. The sunlight maggot itself can be taken as well. Players can wear it as a helm, using its light to navigate dark areas. But every time they do, they carry a bitter reminder of what it cost to obtain. This small glowing creature ended one of the most beloved characters in the entire game. Its usefulness as an item cannot erase the tragedy of how it was acquired. The symbolism of what happened runs deep into the themes of Dark Souls. Solaire wanted a guiding sun so badly that he mistook a parasite's lure for divine enlightenment. His single-minded obsession made him vulnerable to exactly the kind of trap that would exploit his deepest desires. The very quality that made him admirable, his unwavering faith, became the weakness that destroyed him. Lost Izalith's history makes the irony even sharper. This is where the Witch of Izalith attempted to recreate the first flame and failed catastrophically. Her failure produced the Chaos Flame, which spawned demons and twisted creatures that spread corruption throughout the world. The sunlight maggot is a byproduct of that chaos, a cruel mockery of true sunlight born from a failed fire. Solaire spent his entire journey as an adherent of Lord Gwyn, the original Lord of Sunlight. He worshipped the genuine article. He sought the real thing, and in the end, he fell victim to a cheap imitation created by the forces of chaos. The knight who painted suns on his own armor accepted a false sun that consumed his mind. He strayed from the path of Gwyn at the very moment he thought he had found what Gwyn represented. Had things gone differently, Solaire might have escaped this fate. If he had held on a little longer, he could have emerged from the darkness and seen the real sun again. If he had been more cautious about the glowing creature approaching him, he might have recognized the danger. But the darkness of Izalith broke his spirit at exactly the wrong moment. His despair created the perfect conditions for the maggot to claim him. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki designed this outcome deliberately. He has stated that Solaire falling to the sunlight maggot was intended as the general norm for players. This means the tragic ending is meant to be the typical experience. Miyazaki created a character that players would naturally grow attached to over the course of their journey, then presented them with a scenario where that character loses himself completely. This approach embodies the core themes of Dark Souls as a game. Even the greatest heroes can flame out. Even the most devoted warriors can fall to temptation or despair. The journey is often cyclical and cruel, repeating patterns of rise and collapse across countless ages. Solaire's fate fits perfectly into a world where hope is precious precisely because it so often gets crushed. The emotional impact of this storyline has resonated with players since the game's release. Encountering the maddened Solaire for the first time remains one of the most memorable moments in gaming for many people. The shock of seeing him transformed, the grief of having to face him in combat, the sadness of collecting his belongings afterward. These feelings were crafted intentionally to deliver maximum emotional effect. But Miyazaki also left room for something else. Within the game's design, a different path exists, a way to prevent this tragedy from ever happening, a chance to save the friend who helped you so many times throughout your adventure. The brighter ending for Solaire requires effort and knowledge that most players will not possess on their first journey through Lordran. But for those who discover it, the reward is a conclusion that feels earned in ways the tragic path does not. The darkness claimed Solaire in the depths of lost Izalith, but light still has a chance to prevail. The tragedy does not have to happen. There is another way. Hidden within Dark Souls exists a secret path that most players will never discover on their own. This alternate route requires joining a completely different covenant and making sacrifices that seem to have nothing to do with Solaire at all. But for those who find it, the reward is saving the life of the friend who helped them throughout their entire journey. The key lies with the Chaos Servants, a covenant dedicated to the Daughter of Chaos in Blighttown. This sickly creature is one of the daughters of the Witch of Izalith, transformed by the failed experiment that created the Chaos Flame. Joining her covenant and reaching the second rank requires offering 30 humanity to ease her suffering. Most players have no reason to do this unless they are specifically pursuing this path. But reaching that rank unlocks something important. A locked door near the demon Fire Sage boss becomes accessible. Behind this door lies a hidden passage that serves as a shortcut into lost Izalith. And within that passage crawl several chaos bugs, including one specific creature with red eyes that glows brighter than the others. This is the sunlight maggot that would eventually attach itself to Solaire and drive him insane. If the player travels through this shortcut before Solaire arrives in the area and destroys that particular chaos bug, the parasite cannot claim its victim. The trap that would have consumed the Warrior of Sunlight simply ceases to exist. Solaire wanders through lost Izalith searching for his son, fails to find the glowing creature that would have lured him, and survives with his sanity intact. The action required to save him is almost absurdly obscure. A player would need to join a specific covenant, donate a significant amount of a valuable resource, explore a hidden passage, and destroy an enemy that seems no different from the others around it. All of this must happen before certain events trigger in the main storyline. Someone playing blind would have almost no chance of piecing this together on their first attempt. Yet for those who discover the secret, the outcome changes everything. After the Chaos Bug is destroyed and the Centipede Demon defeated, the chosen undead finds Solaire in the dim chamber where the maggot would have been waiting. He sits alone in the darkness, alive and sane, but deeply broken in spirit. The despair that had been building throughout his journey has finally overwhelmed him. He believes his quest has ended in complete failure. His words in this moment carry tremendous weight. He laments that his son is not here. He feels like he has lost himself entirely. The dream that drove him to accept the undead curse, to journey to Lordran, to fight through countless battles seems like nothing more than a cruel joke now. He slumped in defeat, unable to see any path forward. This scene is bittersweet in ways that the tragic ending is not. Solaire has been saved from madness, but his spirit is crushed. He has avoided becoming a mindless husk controlled by a parasite, but he has also lost the hope that sustained him for so long. The player can speak to him and try to offer encouragement, but Solaire remains dejected. He does not yet understand that his story is not over. This is perhaps the lowest emotional point for the character in either timeline. In the tragic path, he loses his mind and attacks his friends. In this path, he keeps his sanity but loses his purpose. Both outcomes involve a kind of loss that feels deeply unfair for someone who tried so hard and believed so completely. But the crucial difference is that Solaire remains alive and himself. His body is intact. His mind still functions. The player's intervention has given him something that the tragic path takes away forever: a second chance at finding meaning. The true reward for saving Solaire reveals itself at the very end of the game. The kiln of the first flame waits at the conclusion of the chosen undead's journey. This is where Lord Gwyn, the original Lord of Sunlight, has been maintaining the first flame for countless ages. But the effort has hollowed him completely. The mighty god who once commanded lightning and defeated the ancient dragons has become a husk of his former self, a lord of cinder clinging to a dying fire. If Solaire survives lost Izalith, his golden summon sign appears outside the fog door leading to Gwyn. After everything that has happened, after all the despair and near destruction, the steadfast friend has pulled himself together for one final battle. He answers the call one last time for the most important fight of all. Summoning him brings Solaire into the kiln as a golden phantom, standing shoulder to shoulder with the chosen undead against the fallen god. The two warriors of the sun face Gwyn together in an epic final confrontation. Solaire holds his own against the Lord of Cinder's fiery attacks, drawing aggression and dealing damage just as he did in every previous battle they shared. The poetry of this moment cannot be overstated. Solaire spent his entire journey as a devout adherent of Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight. He worshipped this deity and sought to emulate his brilliance. Now he helps bring down what remains of that god, fighting to end Gwyn's hollow existence and give him peace. The warrior of the sun participates in defeating the original Lord of the Sun himself. With two fighters working in tandem, Gwyn falls more easily than he would against a single opponent. The battle that serves as the final test of the chosen undead's journey becomes manageable with Solaire's assistance. And when Gwyn collapses at last, both warriors stand victorious in the heart of the first flame. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki has spoken about what this outcome means for Solaire's story. He described the path where Solaire survives to help in the final boss as the character's happiest ending. According to Miyazaki, Solaire links the flame in his own world and achieves his dream by becoming the sun itself. This detail transforms everything about his quest. The sun Solaire was seeking was not some object hidden in a dungeon or a blessing from a forgotten god. It was the first flame all along, the fire that brought light to the world, the source of sunlight itself. By sacrificing himself to rekindle that flame, Solaire literally becomes what he always wanted to be. He achieves the incandescence he spoke of when you first met him on that sunlit balcony. In linking the fire, Solaire takes on the mantle of a Lord of Cinder. He burns as fuel for the Age of Fire, extending the era of light for another cycle. His body is consumed, but his essence becomes part of the sun that shines over the world. The dream he carried since leaving Astora is fulfilled in the most literal way possible. This lore revelation gives meaning to what initially seemed like a hopeless quest. Throughout the game, players might have wondered what Solaire's personal sun could possibly be. The answer was hiding in plain sight the entire time. The first flame needed someone to sacrifice themselves to keep it burning. Solaire, with his unwavering faith and devotion to sunlight, was perhaps the perfect candidate. After the game ends, Solaire is not seen again, regardless of which path the player chose. If he survived and linked the flame, he perished in that sacrifice. If the player witnessed his summon sign, but chose not to call upon him, Solaire faced Gwyn alone in his own world and presumably made the same choice. The game leaves certain details open, but Miyazaki's comments suggest Solaire did indeed fulfill his destiny. Players who save Solaire often experience complicated emotions when they realize he is gone in subsequent playthroughs. The triumph of keeping him alive through Lost Izalith gives way to the melancholy of knowing he sacrificed himself anyway. But this sadness feels different from the tragedy of the sunlight maggot. Solaire chose his fate. He died as himself, fulfilling his dream rather than losing his mind to a parasite. His legacy continues in ways that extend far beyond his own lifetime. The Age of Fire persists because of warriors like him who gave everything to maintain it. The light that shines over the world carries his incandescence within it, and as future games in the series would reveal, the ideals he represented survive across countless ages and cycles. Saving Solaire from the darkness of Lost Izalith remains one of the most rewarding accomplishments in Dark Souls. It requires effort and knowledge that goes beyond simply completing the main quest. But for those who achieve it, the satisfaction runs deep. They gave their friend a second chance at finding his purpose. They enabled him to achieve his dream in the most meaningful way possible. The knight who praised the sun finally became one with it. Kingdoms rise and fall. Names get forgotten. But some legends refuse to fade. Dark Souls 2 takes place in Drangleic, a kingdom that exists long after the events of the first game. The cycles of fire and dark have turned many times since the chosen undead walked through Lordran. Countless ages have passed. The world has changed in ways that make the original era seem like ancient history. Yet something familiar persists in this new land. The Warriors of Sunlight have a successor. A covenant called the Heirs of the Sun carries forward the traditions that Solaire lived by. These warriors use golden summon signs just like their predecessors did. They greet each other with the same gesture, arms raised toward the sky in celebration of the light above. They believe in cooperation and brotherhood just as strongly as any knight from the original order. The ideals that defined the Warriors of Sunlight survived the collapse of kingdoms and the turning of ages. This continuation suggests something remarkable about how legends work in the Dark Souls universe. Solaire himself does not appear in Drangleic. His personal story concluded back in Lordran, either in tragedy or triumph, depending on the path the chosen undead took. But the movement he represented proved stronger than any individual. The concept of sun warriors helping each other through difficult battles transcended his lifetime and became something permanent. Players can join the Heirs of the Sun by discovering a hidden sunlight altar in a place called Harvest Valley. The process mirrors what existed in Lordran. You find the sacred location, you make your pledge, and you become part of something larger than yourself. Once a member, your summon sign glows gold instead of white. You earn sunlight medals for successful cooperation. The mechanics function almost identically to how they worked in the original Warriors of Sunlight Covenant. The rewards for dedication to this covenant reveal how deeply Solaire's memory has embedded itself into the world's history. At 10 sunlight medals offered, members receive the Sunlight Palmer. This small shield bears a painted image that tells a story without using any words. The artwork depicts a hero from a bygone age who is associated with the sun. The item description explicitly mentions this hero of yore whose legacy inspired the design. Someone in Drangleic remembered a knight who wore sun emblems and fought with such heroism that his image deserved to be preserved for future generations. Who else could this possibly reference? The shield describes exactly what Solaire was: a hero who associated himself with the sun, a warrior whose story became legendary enough to inspire artwork ages later. The game never names him directly, but the connection is obvious to anyone familiar with his tale. Solaire became the unnamed champion that future sun warriors looked up to as an example of what they should strive to become. At 20 medals, the Covenant rewards members with the Sun Sword. This weapon serves as Drangleic's version of the Sunlight Straightsword that Solaire carried throughout his journey. The description notes that it is a blade of excellent quality but possesses no special magical powers. This matches exactly how Solaire's original sword was described: high craftsmanship without divine enchantment, a weapon that relied on the skill of its wielder rather than mystical blessings. The parallel is intentional. Only those who dedicate themselves to cooperation and earn enough sunlight medals can obtain this blade. Only true practitioners of jolly cooperation can arm themselves like the legendary Knight of Sunlight did. The Sun Sword represents more than just a useful weapon. It represents carrying on a tradition that began with someone who believed helping others was the highest calling. At 30 medals and the highest Covenant rank, members receive the ultimate reward. The Sunlight Spear miracle becomes available. The same powerful lightning bolt that warriors of the sun have wielded since the age of Gwyn. This miracle connects directly to the firstborn god who founded the original order. Its presence in Drangleic proves that the power of sunlight and its association with cooperative warriors endures across every cycle of the world. The description for Sunlight Spear in this game speaks of an ancient miracle from the Age of Fire. It is given to those who prove their allegiance to the sun, a symbol of true faith manifested as crackling lightning. The fact that this miracle still exists ages after Lordran fell suggests that something preserved the knowledge and power behind it. Perhaps the actions of warriors like Solaire, who kept the traditions alive through their dedication, ensured the Covenant would never truly end. Some players have wondered whether Solaire himself played a role in this continuation. If he linked the first flame and became part of the sun, as Miyazaki suggested, then his essence might have influenced why these miracles and traditions persisted. The spiritual founder of the heirs of the sun might literally be the knight who sacrificed himself to become the light. This interpretation is not confirmed by the game directly, but it fits beautifully with the themes of his story. What strikes most players about finding the heirs of the sun in Drangleic is the immediate feeling of recognition. The golden signs, the raised arms gesture, the emphasis on helping others defeat powerful enemies. Everything about this covenant evokes memories of Solaire, even though he is never mentioned by name. The nostalgia hits hard for anyone who traveled alongside him in Lordran. This emotional response reveals something important about how Dark Souls handles its lore. The games rarely spell things out directly. They trust players to make connections based on symbols and patterns. The sunlight emblem serves as a thread connecting two games separated by unknown spans of time. It shows that certain ideals prove universal enough to resurface no matter how much the world changes around them. Brotherhood, courage, reverence for the sun. These concepts meant everything to Solaire, and they mean everything to the heirs of the sun as well. The specifics of kingdoms and individuals fade into obscurity, but the core principles endure. A warrior in Drangleic who raises their arms to praise the sun participates in something that began ages ago with a knight from Astora who just wanted to find his own source of light. The irony of Solaire's legacy is that he became exactly what the firstborn god he worshipped became: nameless, his face forgotten, his personal history reduced to vague references on item descriptions, yet still honored by those who follow in his footsteps. The firstborn's name was erased from history, but the covenant he inspired survived. Solaire's name faded from memory, but the ideals he represented became immortal. In a world where kingdoms collapse and even the mightiest heroes eventually hollow, this kind of legacy might be the only immortality that truly exists. Not being remembered specifically, but having your values carried forward by people who never knew you. The phrase, "praise the sun," still echoes among warriors in Drangleic. They do not know who first said it or why. They just know it feels right to say it after a hard-fought victory alongside allies. That feeling of rightness is Solaire's true gift to the future. He showed that cooperation could be joyful. He demonstrated that faith could survive even the darkest places. He proved that one person living by their ideals could inspire others to do the same across countless generations. The sun he sought turned out to be something he was creating all along through his actions and example. The heirs of the sun in Drangleic do not need to know Solaire's story to benefit from it. They simply need to understand that helping others matters. They simply need to believe that the sun represents something worth praising. They simply need to carry golden signs and answer calls for assistance from those facing challenges alone. In doing so, they continue a legacy that began with a cheerful knight standing on a balcony, gazing upward at the sky, dreaming of becoming grossly incandescent. The sun he wanted to become shines over Drangleic, just as it did over Lordran. And somewhere in that light, the spirit of the original Knight of Sunlight lives on. The kingdom of Lothric stands at the end of an age, and even here, Solaire's legend endures. Dark Souls 3 takes place during a later cycle of the world, long after Drangleic fell and new kingdoms rose from the ashes. The patterns of fire and dark have repeated so many times that the original Age of Fire feels like ancient mythology. Yet when the Ashen One begins their journey through Lothric, they discover something remarkable. The Warriors of Sunlight Covenant has survived intact across all those countless years. Early in the game, hidden in the rafters of a building in the Undead settlement, players can find a Covenant item that allows them to join this ancient order. Equipping it formally inducts them into the brotherhood that Solaire represented so long ago. The mechanics work exactly as they always have. Golden summon signs, sunlight medals for successful cooperation. The same commitment to helping others that defined the original Warriors of Sunlight in Lordran. The item description acknowledges the incredible age of this tradition. It refers to members as cooperators from an ancient age, recognizing that this practice began so far in the past that most people have forgotten its origins. The phrasing directly references the era of Gwyn and the knights who served under the banner of Sunlight. By extension, it honors warriors like Solaire who lived by this code when it was still new. But the most striking evidence of Solaire's lasting impact comes from the equipment scattered throughout Lothric that once belonged to him specifically. The armor of the sun can be obtained through a trade with a creature called Pickle Pea the Crow. This is the same iconic chainmail and white surcoat that Solaire wore throughout his journey. The large sun painted on the chest remains exactly as it was ages ago. The description identifies this as the choice attire of a singular Knight of Sunlight from a previous age. It confirms that the symbol was painted by the knight himself, and that the armor never possessed any special sacred power despite its holy imagery. This description matches everything we know about Solaire. He hand-painted his own sun emblems on his equipment. His gear relied on quality craftsmanship rather than divine enchantment. The fact that this armor exists in Lothric as a collectible relic shows that someone preserved it across the ages as a piece of history worth keeping. The reverent tone of the description suggests that people in this era view the armor with something approaching religious respect. The Sunlight Straightsword reappears in Dark Souls 3 as well, found inside a mimic chest in Lothric Castle guarded by a dragon. This blade has changed significantly since Solaire wielded it in Lordran. The original sword was described as containing the power of the sun, according to legend, but in practice it functioned as an ordinary weapon with no special abilities. In Lothric, the legend has become reality. The sword now possesses a skill called Oath of Sunlight. When activated, the wielder raises the blade high toward the sky in a pose that mirrors the praise the sun gesture. This motion grants an attack boost to both the user and nearby allies. The weapon has literally become what it was always claimed to be, a tool that channels the power of sunlight to strengthen those who fight together. The description offers an intriguing explanation for this transformation. It refers to the sword as a relic of one-sided adoration. This phrase captures something essential about who Solaire was as a person. He adored the sun and everything it represented with complete devotion. He worshipped without expecting anything in return. The gods he revered never acknowledged him directly or granted him special favor, yet he kept believing anyway. Perhaps over the countless ages since Solaire's time, that unwavering devotion somehow imbued the weapon with genuine power. If he linked the first flame and became part of the sun, as Miyazaki suggested, then his essence might have flowed back into the items he carried during his mortal life. The knight who believed his plain sword held sun power eventually has a sword that genuinely does. His faith created its own reality. The Sunlight Shield can also be found in Lothric, decorated with the same bright sun design that marked Solaire's equipment. Its description remarks on how the warriors of sunlight were brilliantly gleaming cooperators, another reference to the golden phantoms who answered calls for help across every age of the world. The shield serves as further proof that Solaire's legacy extends to every piece of equipment he once carried. The Sunlight Talisman appears on a corpse in Lothric Castle, waiting to be collected by anyone who discovers it. The description for this item speaks directly to Solaire's character. It states that the talisman bears the knight's own holy illustration, an emblem of his unwavering faith. Using the talisman's skill fills the user with similar steadfastness, allowing them to cast miracles without being interrupted by enemy attacks. The language here explicitly references the qualities that define Solaire throughout his story: unwavering faith, steadfast resolve, the ability to maintain focus and purpose even when everything around him tried to break his spirit. These traits became so legendary that items associated with him can transfer those qualities to whoever wields them. His personality has been preserved in his possessions across the span of ages. Players who collect all of this equipment can effectively dress as the Knight of Sunlight and fight using his exact loadout. The game acknowledges this possibility by making these items available throughout Lothric. Solaire's legend has become so ingrained in the world's culture that future warriors can choose to embody him directly. The cheerful knight from Astora became an archetype that others aspire to imitate. Dark Souls 3 also resolves one of the most persistent fan theories about Solaire's true identity. For years, players speculated that he might secretly be Gwyn's firstborn son in disguise. The evidence seemed compelling: his obsession with sunlight, his lightning miracles, his connection to a covenant that worshipped the firstborn. Some even interpreted his description of the sun as a magnificent father, as a veiled reference to Gwyn himself. The game answers this question definitively through the Nameless King. This secret boss appears at Archdragon Peak as one of the most challenging encounters in the entire series. Item descriptions confirm that the Nameless King is Gwyn's literal firstborn child, the god of war who was erased from history for betraying his father and siding with the ancient dragons. He has survived across all the ages, still wielding lightning and riding a dragon into battle. The existence of the Nameless King proves that Solaire was never a hidden deity. He was simply a mortal man who imitated the Firstborn's path and carried on his Covenant's traditions. The two figures are completely separate despite their thematic similarities. Solaire drew inspiration from the god of war's legacy without actually being that god in disguise. What makes this revelation interesting is how it reframes Solaire's accomplishments. The Nameless King exists as an isolated figure with little widespread worship remaining. He was erased from history so thoroughly that his name is literally gone. Meanwhile, the idea of the Warrior of Sunlight persisted among common people across every age of the world. Solaire's fanatical one-sided adoration of the sun achieved something that the Firstborn's actual divine status did not. It kept the flame of faith alive through the ages. The mortal knight became more influential than the god he worshipped. The follower outlasted the founder. The traditions Solaire upheld and the example he set proved more enduring than the power of an immortal deity who abandoned his worshippers. There is something beautiful about this irony. The earnest man who just wanted to find his own son left a mark on the world that even gods failed to match. In Lothric, players can still use the Praise the Sun gesture by equipping the Covenant item and visiting the Sunlight altar. The fact that this gesture and Covenant remain active shows how enduring Solaire's influence truly became. The Warriors of Sunlight in this era have no known leader or guiding NPC. The Brotherhood sustains itself through peer-to-peer transmission of its values and practices. Some fans have noticed a statue near the Sunlight altar that depicts a knight kneeling with a sword. Whether this honors Solaire or the Firstborn remains unconfirmed, but the presence of such imagery reinforces that Sunlight worship remains a living tradition even at the end of the world. The culture of cooperation and brotherhood that Solaire championed has become a permanent fixture of how people relate to each other across the cycles of fire and dark. The spirit of Solaire lives on wherever the sun is revered. His equipment survives as sacred relics. His covenant persists as an active brotherhood. His gesture continues to be performed after every hard-fought victory. The knight who sought his own sun became a light that guides others across the ages. And somewhere in that endless cycle, his incandescence still shines. For years, players believed Solaire was hiding a secret that would change everything about his story. The theory went like this. Solaire was not just some knight from Astora who chose to become undead. He was actually Gwyn's firstborn son, the forgotten god of war, walking among mortals in disguise. The evidence seemed overwhelming. His obsession with the sun mirrored Gwyn's title as Lord of Sunlight. His lightning miracles channeled the same power that Gwyn's family wielded. The covenant he belonged to was founded specifically to worship the Firstborn. And when he described the sun as a magnificent father, some players heard a veiled reference to his actual divine parent. His unknown backstory only fueled the speculation. Nobody knew where Solaire came from or why he chose his path. His extraordinary determination suggested he might be more than he appeared. The possibility that this cheerful knight was secretly a god in exile captured the imagination of the entire community. People debated the theory endlessly, searching for additional clues in every piece of dialogue and every item description. But the theory was never true. Dark Souls 3 provided the definitive answer by introducing the Nameless King as a secret boss. Item descriptions explicitly identify this figure as the firstborn child of Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. The god who was erased from history for siding with the ancient dragons exists as a completely separate character from Solaire. Director Hidetaka Miyazaki himself confirmed that Solaire was never intended to be the firstborn in disguise. This revelation disappointed some fans who had invested heavily in the theory, but it also reframed Solaire's story in a way that makes him more remarkable rather than less. The phrase one-sided adoration from the Sunlight Straightsword description in Dark Souls 3 captures this perfectly. Solaire loved the sun with complete devotion, but the sun never loved him back. He worshipped Gwyn and the firstborn, but received no special blessing or acknowledgement from any deity. His faith was entirely unrequited. The gods he revered remained silent throughout his entire journey, yet he kept believing anyway. This is what makes Solaire genuinely heroic. He did not have divine heritage granting him special powers. He did not receive confirmation from the heavens that his quest was meaningful. He was just a mortal man who chose to believe in something and committed his entire existence to that belief. Everything he accomplished came from effort and dedication rather than birthright. If Solaire had secretly been a god all along, his accomplishments would feel diminished. Of course, a deity could perform miraculous feats and inspire lasting devotion. That would simply be the expected outcome of divine power manifesting in the world. But a regular knight from Astora, achieving all of this through sheer force of will and unwavering faith, that resonates on a completely different level. Solaire was a self-made champion of sunlight. He painted his own holy symbols on ordinary armor. He crafted his own talisman bearing illustrations of his faith. He maintained his conviction through the darkest places in existence without any evidence that his belief would be rewarded. This makes him relatable in ways that a hidden god could never be. Every piece of canonical information about Solaire comes from the mainline stories of the 3 Dark Souls games. He does not appear in any downloadable content. The Artorias of the Abyss expansion for the first game deals with entirely separate characters and events in a different era. The expansions for Dark Souls 2 and 3 focus on painted worlds and other matters that have nothing to do with the Sunlight Covenant. Everything we know about this knight comes from the base games and the developer commentary that supplements them. This means his story is complete as presented. There are no hidden revelations waiting in expansion content, no secret endings that change the narrative. What we have seen across 3 games represents the full canonical account of who Solaire was, what he accomplished, and what happened to him. The tale is finished and it stands on its own merits. Outside of the lore itself, Solaire became something that transcends the games he appeared in. The phrase, "praise the sun," evolved into a celebration that extends far beyond Dark Souls. Players use it to express joy after any victory in any game. The gesture of raising both arms toward the sky has become recognizable to people who have never even played the series. Merchandise featuring his image appears everywhere the gaming community gathers. This external legacy mirrors what happened within the fictional world. Just as the heirs of the sun in Drangleic and the warriors of sunlight in Lothric carried his traditions forward across the ages, real players carried his memory forward across gaming generations. The cheerful knight who offered friendship in a hostile world became a symbol of positivity that people wanted to share with each other. There is something appropriate about this parallel. Solaire believed that cooperation and brotherhood could make even the darkest places bearable. He handed out soapstones and encouraged jolly cooperation, because he genuinely thought helping others was the highest calling. The fact that real people embraced this philosophy and spread it beyond the boundaries of a single game would probably make him smile. His values found an audience that understood them. From his humble beginnings as an undead knight with a dream, Solaire's tale became one of the most complete character arcs in the entire Dark Souls series. He experiences everything a character can experience. Hope when he first arrives in Lordran, struggle as he fights through dangerous territory, doubt when his quest seems impossible, potential fall to madness if fate turns against him, and possible redemption through sacrifice if someone intervenes to save him. His highest moments shine brilliantly, standing victorious alongside the chosen undead after defeating legendary bosses, earning the brotherhood of a fellow warrior who shares his values, potentially facing Gwyn himself in the final battle of the age. These triumphs feel earned because of everything he endured to reach them. His lowest moments cut deeply, wandering through lost Izalith with his faith crumbling, succumbing to a parasitic creature that exploits his deepest desires, attacking his only friend while lost in madness. These tragedies feel devastating because of how much he meant to the player by the time they occur. The Sunlight Covenant he championed became a golden thread binding all three games together. In Lordran, he founded or represented a movement dedicated to helping others. In Drangleic, that movement survived as the heirs of the sun, even though his name had been forgotten. In Lothric, his equipment became sacred relics, and his traditions continued unchanged. No other character in the series has this kind of presence across every installment. His story asks a question that resonates beyond the boundaries of a video game. What happens when someone devotes themselves completely to an ideal that might not exist? Solaire searched for his own son without ever knowing if such a thing was possible. He could have been chasing an illusion his entire journey. The uncertainty never stopped him from trying. If he fell to the sunlight maggot, his tale becomes a warning about obsession. The very quality that made him admirable became the weakness that destroyed him. His fixation on finding light made him vulnerable to a false light that consumed his mind. The tragic hero flew too close to the sun he was seeking and burned. If he survived and linked the first flame, his tale becomes a triumph of faith rewarded. The sun he was seeking turned out to be the very source of all sunlight in the world. By sacrificing himself to rekindle it, he became what he always wanted to be. The devoted knight achieved incandescence through his final act. Either ending works because both are true to who he was as a character. The tragedy reflects the cruelty of the Dark Souls universe. The triumph reflects the possibility of meaning even in that cruel world. Players get to choose which version of his story feels right to them based on their own actions during the journey. But regardless of which ending occurs, something remains constant. Solaire brought light to everyone he encountered during his time in Lordran. He offered friendship when others offered only warnings. He fought alongside strangers because he believed in their shared potential. He refused to let the darkness of the world extinguish his inner flame. In a series defined by bleakness and despair, he stood as proof that hope could survive. In a world designed to break spirits, he kept his spirit intact until the very end. In a narrative where most characters succumb to cynicism or madness, he maintained genuine optimism through everything. That is why players remember him so fondly. That is why his traditions survived across every age of the world. That is why Praise the Sun became more than just a gesture in a video game. Solaire of Astora was the sun he was looking for. He just needed the rest of us to see it, and we always will.